Okay, let's take a quick listen to the snare. I have the overhead left and right soloed as well as the snare, and I'm doing this so that I can shape up the tone of the snare in context with the overheads. I don't have a room mic, so I want to take advantage of the overhead mics so that the snare sounds full. Sometimes when you mix the snare just by itself and then you put it in the mix, it just doesn't sound full or doesn't sound right. So I like to hear it in a bit of context, and I'll hear it in the context of the overheads, and then I'll hear it in the context of the drums, and then I'll hear it in the context of the mix. As you know, I do have a bit of reverb, room reverb here in the drum bus. And the next plugin that I have for the snare, or the first plugin that I have, is the virtual mix rack. And the only plugin that I have instantiated within the virtual mix rack is the VCC channel from Slate. And what I've done on this plugin, and you'll be able to tell the difference right away, I have the input maxed out. I have the output lowered by 7 dBs. I'm using the first emulation, which is the Brit 4KE, and the drive I have at 0. And I'll explain why, and I'll make some moves there. But let's listen to it. And here it is with the plugin engaged. Again, snare and overheads also engaged. One thing that I wanted to do was to ensure that the needle was hovering around 0, just to maintain that good input level to the mix at 0 VU. Okay, so the VCC plugin did add a bit of gain, but it also added some nice harmonics. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with adding a bit of gain with a plugin if you do think or you do perceive that it is making a difference. In this case, I can hear the low end of the snare come up a little bit, makes the snare sound a little bit fatter, okay? And it also makes it sound a bit full. Listen to it with the plugin bypassed. Okay, so that's important. Now, I know that I've added a bit of gain, and what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take it out at the drum bus level or at the mix bus level. I feel the snare sounds really good, that I don't have to remove any bad frequencies right now. So I'm going to actually increase the good frequencies, or the frequencies that I think would benefit the snare. One of the frequencies that I normally boost in a snare is the low end, the low frequency, maybe around 300 or below. And I could do that either with a bell curve or with a shelf, depending on what sounds better. And I can also boost the attack a little bit by using a higher frequency, either on the upper mids or in the high frequencies. So let me add a plugin, and I'm going to add a plugin that I recently got that I'm really enjoying, and that is the RS56 from Waves. I'm going to use this plugin to add those frequencies that I told you about, and I'm either going to use a bell curve or a shelf. What I like about this plugin is I normally set it at +4, just so that I can hear the difference and see what it's doing. And I'll start with the high frequency at 5800. Okay, I'm gonna reduce the output because I am adding a bit of gain. In fact, it is too much of a boost, so I'm gonna reduce that boost back to 4. It is adding a touch of top end, so I really like that. Now let's listen to the treble section and see if I can do anything in the mids. So I'm actually going to turn this one off. I don't need it. Now let me boost a little bit on the low end. Okay, that boost at 128 made the snare, the low end of the snare come out a little bit, but it also boosted a touch of the kick, and that's where it gets dangerous. But in this case, I don't mind boosting the kick through the snare. So let's just review what I did here. I have 4 dBs or 3.7 at 8,000 or at 8K, and that it's giving it a bit of the attack. But what I'm doing here, because it is a high shelf, it's not just giving me the attack, it's also giving me some of that brightness or some of that top end, which includes the cymbals, but it really includes a lot of that snare ring or that snare, like the chains of the snare and that nice top end of the snare. And it's not like dirty, like it would sound raw just with having the track recorded without any processing. So it sounds really nice. And I boosted 4 dBs at 128 using what they call here a blunt curve. And basically this is a wide Q bell curve that I'm using. So it sounds pretty good. Let's bypass the plugins and the track and let's see what it sounds like without any of the plugins. Okay, so the attack is there. Sounds really nice. I am aware that there is some gain being added by the plugins, but it's not much, and I really like it. And what I've actually increased is actually the RMS level of the snare, the average tone, the average level of sound of the snare. So I'm okay with that. And again, if I need to reduce it later at the drum bus level, I will. I do feel that the snare lacks a bit of attack, and that's because of all the processing that I've done. I've actually removed some of the attack. With the VCC, you can actually smooth out the top end to the point where you're losing some of that attack. So I like using the SPL Transient Designer to fix some of that. So let's bring that in. And basically this plugin just helps you to build up the attack right on the transients or to rebuild the transients. So using boosting it by 3 dBs actually did the trick for me, and you can hear it if I bypass the plugin. Okay, definitely this plugin is doing its job, and this Transient Designer is an amazing plugin. I got a good deal on it, and I'll put the link below in case you don't have it, so you can learn about it a bit more. And on the sustain, and this is basically like the decay right after the attack, I just took out 3 dB, and what it's doing is taking out everything around the snare, meaning the overheads, any of that ring that I added, and turn it into shaping up the transients. And that's why they call it Transient Designer. And I'm probably giving you the wrong information about how it works. I don't know the technicalities about it, but I do know it works. I'm seeing it for myself. Again, just a quick A/B. All right, let's listen to it in context of the drum mix. With the plugins bypassed. Okay, now I'm gonna bypass all of the plugins in the drum mix. If you look at the drum bus is really not going up in gain too much. There's no clipping going on, so I'm satisfied with the tone. The real telltale test will be how does it sound within the entire mix. That is sounding really good just now. I'm really pleased with the tone of the snare. We haven't touched the toms, and that's not going to add a lot for me, but I would say that this drum mix is almost done right where it's at. It sounds really good, and let me just do a last A/B, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Okay, one thing to note is that I don't have a reverb. I'm not sending any of the snare audio into a reverb plugin. The only reverb that I have currently on the drum mix is on the drum bus, and I'm sending the entire drum bus to a room reverb, which is this Lexicon room plugin, and I've got it set on medium rooms and the ambience. And the ambience preset, and listen to just how it sounds just without that, with the plugin and without the reverb plugin. That's sounding really nice now, and as we continue to work on the guitars, on the bass, we'll start to see how the drum mix shapes up within the context of the mix. So I'm really pleased with this. As always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share if you don't mind, and I'll talk to you soon.